You're doing all sorts of things when you're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
You're probably farting, sweating. There's like a ton. Of course, I'm going to talk about that kind of
Of
stuff.
course,
I always
yeah.
end up talking about poop somehow. The following podcast is a Healthy Dog production. Welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigma Talib. I'm a leading naturopathic doctor now for over 20 years, and I've consulted thousands of patients with chronic illnesses. I've had clinics all over the world, and I have a #1 bestseller, Younger Skin Starts in the Gut. Listen, I know there's a lot of health information out there in the health and wellness world, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm here to set the record straight and give you my expertise along with my expert guests here in studio in sunny Los Angeles.
I only take drugs with other people who take them on a regular basis because I don't have time for that.
A lot of chronic diseases stem from mitochondrial dysfunction.
Yes, and you know what I love talking about, right? Poop.
Yes. You can ask me about my poop?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about poop.
Okay, please.
This podcast is your go-to for achieving optimal wellness from the best of beauty and longevity and everything in between, because after all, wellness comes from the inside out. Today, I have two special ladies on the show. They're Canadian, they're entrepreneurs, and they're sisters. And they're doing something incredible in the wellness space, clothing. And this clothing is not just any clothing, it's wellness pajamas that are going to take you to the next level. I'm so excited to have them here today. Serena and Neelam, thank you so much for being here today from RANI Lounge. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be here.
I am excited to talk about this topic because I rarely hear anyone talk about toxic clothing, and in particular pajamas. And now you've created this beautiful line of pajamas that are non-toxic, that are things that we spend a lot of time in. Tell me about what inspired you to create RANI Lounge pajamas.
Yeah, so actually our story started, so when I was around 25, I got really, really sick. And something that just never resonated with me was that I needed rest to feel better. So after I got sick, the doctor sent me home. They were like, you need to rest, you need to recover. And for me, it was just, I had this hustle mentality. I need to get back to work. I need to be running around. I need to be doing things. So I was always looking for those quick fixes. What are the supplements I can take? Let me go to the gym twice a day. Let me eat this. Let me eat that. And I just wasn't resting and I wasn't getting better. And it just wasn't clicking for me. And so it went by. I was sick for a couple months. And then finally one day it just kind of hit me as I was digging deeper into understanding health and wellness and reading different things, and realized that really it is about rest and sleep. And that's really the foundation of our health and well-being. And when I leaned into that, it was when I finally started to feel better. So something we've both been so passionate about is helping inspire other people, other women especially, to really prioritize rest as a foundation of our health. So when we set out to start our brand, we knew we wanted it to be about inspiring women to focus on rest, and starting with pajamas as our signature product just made sense because we've both always loved matching pajama sets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your sisters.
We are, yes.
What's the age gap?
We're 3 years apart.
Okay. Okay. I can't tell who's older.
No one ever can, but we always like to try to make people guess.
Okay. That's really not fair. You look the same age.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, you could be twins without being identical twins.
We always get that.
But no, Neelam's the older one. She's older by 3 years.
Okay. And has she been like always, who's acted like the older sister? Is it?
Oh, definitely her. I have a
Definitely
lot
her?
of younger
Sometimes
sisters.
the younger sister can take over and be bossy and act like
She has her moments, but I would say for the most part, I very much fall into the older sister persona.
So you're doing this business together. You started this business together, sisters. How fun is that? Has it been fun or has it been challenging?
Honestly, it's been so fun. Neelam and I, we've always been so close, and we know each other so well. We know each other's personalities so well, so we know how to not annoy each other and how to annoy each other when that's needed too. And we're really lucky that we have pretty complementary skill sets. And we're also just really good at being that person for each other to calm the other down. And I find when one of us is really stressed out, the other can bring that person back to earth and vice versa. So we've been really, really lucky to be able to build this together. And honestly, it's not just us. We have a very involved family, and our whole family is a part of this business.
That's amazing because that's rare. I mean, we hear about sibling rivalry. And so I think we have a lot to learn from the two of you. I mean, your business just sounds incredible. I've tried and tested so many pajamas over my years, and I just end up taking off all my clothes by the end of the middle of the night because I'm so hot, or they're sticking to me, or they're uncomfortable, or the material isn't comfortable. So I have to say I love them. But before I get into like more of how much I love your pajamas, I wanted to talk to you about toxic clothing. So we rarely talk about it, right? And the fashion industry has been talking about it. And we know that the dyes and the chemicals in the clothing, you know, I know myself when I purchase some clothes from some generic brands or, you know, brands that are those, we're not going to name them, it's not going to get in trouble, but they're like found in different places in the world. And you'll literally wear them and you'll see dyes on your body. And, you know, these are pajamas are something you wear for the longest period of time, if you think about it, right?
Exactly.
So like how many of us put on our pajamas when we get home? Like we take a shower, we put on our pajamas, and then we eventually go to sleep. You know, I would say it's almost 10 hours that we're wearing these pajamas. I'd like to wear them all day and all night if I could.
So would we.
We all did during the pandemic, obviously.
Yeah.
But what have you learned about this industry, this clothing toxic industry?
Yeah. So like you said, when you're wearing your pajamas, you're wearing them for maybe 10 hours, minimum of 6 hours, hopefully more. You're getting more sleep than that. But our bodies actually can absorb small molecules from the fabrics we're wearing, especially when you're in a more active state, which you are when you're sleeping. So when there's that friction, that warmth, and that sweat. So it's really so important. And it's such an easy shift that you can make taking toxic clothing off of your out of your sleepwear. But it's such a powerful shift and has such a great impact on your long-term health. So it's really so important to be paying attention to what you're wearing, especially when it's a long stretch.
And honestly, this has been a learning journey for us as well. Like when we originally started our brand, our original collection, we were creating these beautiful satin pajamas, and that's just what we had known, what we had always worn. And we didn't really know or understand so much about the topic, which I think is pretty common. But once we really got into the health side of building our business and knowing that we wanted to create products that are really good for people, we realized really quickly we wanted to make a very conscious shift to find the right fabrics and the right materials to work with. So we went on a pretty long journey after launching to really change up our products, change up our business, and find the right material partners, factory partners to create something that was very unique, very intentional, and really aligned with trying to build a company that promotes health and well-being and really helps people improve their health and well-being.
From PMS to perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause, I've lived through it all. And through every stage, one thing becomes clear. Hormone fluctuations change how our bodies regulate temperature, especially at night. When your body overheats, even slightly, it disrupts deep, restorative sleep. The kind of sleep your hormones, metabolism, and mood depend on. That's why I can't live without my RANI Lounge pajamas. Their advanced technology activates natural fibers, making the fabric moisture-resistant, naturally fresh, and ultra-breathable, allowing your body to stay cool and regulate temperature the way nature intended. Better temperature control means deeper sleep, better recovery, and a body that feels truly at ease. Whether at home or traveling, staying cool, fresh, and comfortable has never felt so effortless. Go to RANILounge.com, that's RANILOUNGE.com, and use my code HEALTHYDOG15 and get 15% off your first order and experience sleep the way it was meant to be. What's the generic clothing that we're all wearing at night? Like the pajamas that we're getting at, I don't know, say some of these generic stores that sell like pajamas. What are we getting in those? What chemicals are we getting in them? And, you know, how do those chemicals affect us?
So a lot of clothing is made out of synthetics, pajamas included, when you're wearing just regular satin and some other fabrics as well. And those can include different chemicals like formaldehydes, which helps clothing like not wrinkle. You can get things like phthalates.
Wait a second, they put formaldehyde in clothing generally? I mean, that's what you preserve dead bodies.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something that you don't really realize.
And it's cancer causing.
Yeah, and it's something that I don't think most people realize, and it's in a lot of our clothes because a lot of our clothing is synthetics, from what we sleep in to what we work out in. And so you really want to be conscious about that, especially when it's clothing that you're doing something active in, like working out or sleeping or something that you're wearing for a prolonged period and on a regular basis. So you do really want to think about what is going on your skin, because our skin's our largest organ and it can really absorb what it's exposed to. So you really want to be conscious about that. And I found for myself, because like I mentioned, I used to sleep in polyester because I really just didn't know about it. And that's what was available. And I have a lot of skin issues with eczema. And ever since I've made the switch, I've seen such a dramatic difference in just how my skin feels, how it looks, and just from a comfort perspective. And I think as women especially, we go through so many different hormone fluctuations and changes throughout the year, throughout the month, and throughout our lives. And what we don't realize is we have a lot of heightened skin sensitivity during different periods. So we really want to be conscious about what we're wearing and what we're putting on our skin from both a product perspective, which obviously you're the expert in, and even just the clothing that we're wearing.
You brought up such a good point of our skin being the largest organ in our body. And, we are going through different hormonal changes, and it's really kind of cool here. I don't know your ages because it's very hard to tell how old you are, but we go through the PMS and the perimenopause, and then the menopause is one day, and then there's postmenopause, which is where I'm at. And so the temperature fluctuations that happen with, especially when you're sleeping, is massive. And when we sweat, we open up our the largest organ in our body to seep in all these toxins. And, the research I've done is there's lead in some clothing. There's, phthalates and are endocrine disruptors. And so what is that doing for women in all these different hormonal levels of shifts and all these, we know about breathing stuff in, right? We know about taking supplements or eating foods or things with mercury in them. But this is another way we're getting it into our skin. So this is really, really a smart business that you both created. Do you think that this business, in terms of longevity, do you think you'll do other clothing for, the pajamas is a good start because it's the longest, thing that we're wearing at night, which I love my set, by the way. I now have 2 sets thanks to you. So do you think you'll expand maybe into nightgowns or other, maybe underwear? Because that's something that I think is also another big issue for women, because women get reactions from wearing certain undergarments.
Exactly, yeah. And so our plan is definitely to expand our product line. Yeah. We would want to add in hopefully a short set, add in a nightgown.
That would be good.
Yeah. So we really do want to expand our product line, but we definitely want to be very intentional with how we grow our business. There's just so many products out there and so many things that we're sold to all the time. And we want to make sure that we're actually really creating very thoughtful products, and everything that we sell is something that adds to your life and not just more clutter and more junk that you're adding into your life. So we definitely have plans to expand our product line, but it's kind of a phased approach that we're taking here.
So what did you create? You created something unique. You're using a certain technology. I want to learn about that technology, and I'm trying to understand why nobody else is doing this, because I've not heard of this before. Can you maybe go over this clothing technology that you've been able to partner with?
Yeah, so it's really exciting technology. So we're working with a company called Philium, and they have this really great technology that activates natural fibers to give it this moisture-resistant property. And the way that having a moisture-resistant pajama works is that most of the other fabrics that you'll see out on the market is going to be like a cotton, which is very absorbent. So while it is a natural fabric, it's going to absorb any sweat that's on your body while you're sleeping. And most people, whether people like to admit it or not, we all sweat a little bit when we sleep. So that's going to kind of seep into your fabrics. It's going to make you feel warmer at night. And it just doesn't feel you don't feel very good when your clothes are kind of dripping in sweat.
Well, you're doing all sorts of things when you're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
You're probably farting, sweating. There's a ton. Of course, I'm going to talk about that kind of stuff.
Course,
I always end up talking about poop somehow. We don't poop ourselves, but we emit gases and do all sorts of crazy things when people are sleeping. So yeah, I think that's interesting, because all of that stays in the clothing, but this you're trying to say that this new technology like allows it to
Evaporate off your
permeate
body.
and evaporate.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not like there's a lot of fabrics out there that are moisture wicking, so that's going to wipe the sweat off of you or it's going to absorb the sweat. But this actually is moisture resistant and it's a breathable fabric. So your sweat is going to actually evaporate off your body and let your body follow its natural process of cooling you down. So that's super important when you're sleeping because temperature dysregulation is one of the biggest reasons for sleep disruption. And that's going to prevent you from getting that deep, really restful sleep that you need. So this is really unique and what makes our pajamas so special. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from women who are going through different hormonal stages of their life, whether it's night sweats from menopause or night sweats from IVF treatments, or even if it's just you have the flu and you're sweating at night when you're sleeping, that you're not waking up in pajamas that are drenched. You don't have to wake up in the night and change your pajamas. So it's been really helpful to help women get that deeper sleep. And it's just so great for us to hear that we're created a product that's really, really helping women get that rest that they deserve.
I know, and I couldn't believe it myself because I was recently traveling somewhere in a really hot climate, and normally, like I was saying, I have to, I had to share a room with someone on this trip, and I was so nervous about like, gosh, she's gonna wake up in the morning and I'm gonna be naked, and she's gonna be like, who is this roommate that I've had to share a room with? And so I was like, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity for me to try this and see, like, really, is this working? And I was shocked because I would think, because just by looking at this, it looks like it's like thick. It looks like it's gonna like make me sweat for sure. Because I've definitely worn pajamas that look like this and I've woken up drenched. But it was incredible. I did not sweat at all. And I woke up completely feeling like refreshed. And I like wore them the whole trip and didn't feel like I needed to give them a wash. So I felt like anything, if anything, it was like kind of airing out.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. And I was like, what is this technology? I want this in all my clothing. Right? Because we, even when we're here, sitting here, or we're at work, or, I'm wearing my doctor's coat, they need to you need to make doctor's coats for us. Because we do sweat at work because, we're dealing with patients, and imagine the ER doctors, that would be kind of cool. You guys need to get into that.
Yeah, get into scrubs. But yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because it's such an added benefit that the pajamas are anti-odor. And I don't think people really actively realize that when they're sleeping, it is such an active process. And most people, some people are, but most people don't wash their pajamas after every night. Like I usually go a few nights or a week. And especially when you're traveling and you don't have access to laundry,
no way. Yeah.
Like you wake up, you feel fresh. And I think if you're wearing something that is polyester, or really any sort of synthetic fabric, you notice really quickly that it starts to get some odor. Like you just don't feel as good when you're in it. But the anti-odor benefit has been a big game changer.
I want to share something that could literally slow down how you age, inside and out. Let's talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT. You've probably heard of it being used for athletes or wound healing, but what you may not know is the latest research is showing powerful benefits for cellular regeneration, brain health, and even reversing some biological markers of aging. Hyperbaric chamber works where you breathe in oxygen at higher than normal pressure. This process stimulates your tissues with oxygen and beyond what your body can normally get in. That extra oxygen jumpstarts your cells, helps natural repair processes, reduces inflammation, and boosts collagen production. It even stimulates the growth of new blood vessels. Studies have shown improvements in telomere length, which are kind of like protective caps on your DNA that shorten as you age. Longer telomeres, that's linked to healthier aging. If you're feeling the effects of aging, maybe it's slower recovery, brain fog, or skin that's lost its luster and glow, hyperbaric oxygen might be a powerful tool to help you feel sharper, stronger, and more vibrant. Go to oxyhealth.com, that's OXYHEALTH.com, and type in discount code HEALTHYDOC10 for your first order. It's so interesting because I work with women that are, as we get older, estrogen levels decline. Estrogen equals memory, it equals temperature regulation. Also, your progesterone levels decline, so your sleep is more poor. And so we kind of need everything we can get. The one thing that I noticed as now being in postmenopause is if I don't get a good night's sleep, then it's just game over for me. It's like I need that restful sleep in order to balance my cortisol, which then balances my hormones. So I don't think people realize that like everything matters when you're sleeping. Your temperature, the dark, I like to sleep in the dark where it's like there's no cracks coming in, cooler temperatures. But this I found is really great to moderate the temperature. Let's go back to your journey of when you were sick and not feeling well. What then made you realize that, okay, I need to create something that is going to help women regulate their temperature at night so that they can sleep better? Was that something that immediately struck you, that you were just not getting restful sleep and therefore you weren't healing?
It was kind of a journey to getting to the temperature regulation piece, but when it came to the sleep bit, it was like months and months of trying to feel better. And I was in and out of the hospital, and I was so young. I was 25 years old. I was otherwise perfectly healthy, and something just wasn't working in my body. And I was rushing to get back to work, and I was wanting to get back to social engagements, wanting to get back to travel. And I just couldn't do all the things a normal 25-year-old should do. And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't feeling better, because I was like, I've changed my diet, I'm eating better, I'm exercising more, I'm taking supplements, and everything that you kind of hear, all these conventional wellness fixes and hacks. I was doing everything and something just wasn't right. And it finally took me hitting a point of full burnout where I couldn't go to work anymore, and I was feeling so sick that I was like, okay, you know what, I need to dig a little deeper and really understand holistic health and wellness. What are actually the things that make us feel better? And the more I was learning about it, the more I was realizing like sleep really is the foundation of health, and it's often the most overlooked part of our health. I think it's this thing, the first thing that we sacrifice. Oh my gosh, he's so cute.
He's coming. He heard that you weren't feeling well. So he
came right over.
He is like a little healer.
But it really is the first thing everyone sacrifices, whether it's for work or social engagements or even just scrolling TikTok at night. We all just skip sleep for everything, right? And so I really had to force myself to realize, like, you know what, you need to get your rest. So I started learning more about my circadian rhythm, and I created this kind of strict bedtime routine. Serena was fresh out of college at the time, and we were roommates, and I was like, okay, I need to be in bed by a certain time. I need to wake up at a certain time. This girl's going out partying, making fun of me for being an old grandma. This was many years ago. And but then slowly I started to feel a lot better and realized that this is what I need to feel my best, is to make sure I'm getting enough sleep. And Serena also saw the positive change that had on my health, and she started learning more about it and getting really interested in health and wellness as well. And so that kind of led us down this path of, we want to spread this message that before you try any other fixes for your health, really make sure you're focusing on getting that rest that you need to feel your best. And then on top of that, you can stack your other wellness and health habits, because those are all also very important as well. So that's why we set out initially to create this brand and really focus on this messaging and the sleep wellness bit.
So what ultimately got you better? What was your ultimate journey to getting well?
It really came down to rest. It was when I finally took a step back. I was like, okay, I'm not going to be working crazy hours anymore. I'm going to set boundaries in my life with work. I'm going to have to say no to certain social commitments. And it truly was rest that helped me get better.
It's so important. I'm so glad you said that, because I was just speaking to somebody yesterday, and we were like, you can do all these wellness hacks. You can take your supplements. You can, you can do everything, even exercise. Although exercise I find does help with sleeping. But
it does, yeah.
If you don't rest, if you don't sleep, and I'm talking really sleep, and I have my Oura ring to like tell me if I've slept or not. Yeah. It's actually a really good thing to remind me to say, okay, I really like it when I get the crown of like 95 or over. I'm like so pleased with myself that I slept. It's like I'm in competition with myself. But it really is. And I feel really productive the next day. And it's kind of like you feel like you have a hangover when you've had not enough sleep. And they've compared that poor sleep to a hangover, or to also to be intoxicated, the same level of attention. So it is really important that rest is like the number one healer of everything. And I think if you can get that, all the supplements and then all the other wellness hacks work really well.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're going to have to spend a lot of money on wellness hacks to get yourself to sleep.
And that's
to that point, right?
that's exactly the trap that I fell into.
Right.
And I was so early in my corporate career too. So much of my identity and my self-worth was tied to my career and how well I was doing in my job. So I didn't want to appear weak and saying that I needed to sleep and I needed to take a step back from things. So that made it so hard for me. But then I realized, like, ultimately, if I wasn't rested, if I wasn't feeling well, I wasn't doing a good job at my work.
That's so bad that you felt that way, you know, that you felt like ashamed of wanting to take care of your personal health.
But I think especially as women, we just feel so much pressure to always show up, always be on 100%. We don't want to look weak. So we always push ourselves to the brink. And that's why so many women end up in this feeling burnt out, getting sick, having so many stress-related disorders. It all comes down to not resting enough and not listening to your body.
And I would say on top of that, when it comes to women and women's health in particular, there's so much that we're just starting to learn about and actually talk about openly now. And we're at a really exciting point, in my opinion, when it comes to women's health, is we have like really incredible healthcare professionals like yourself who are not only talking about kind of the women's health that affects us earlier in life, but what happens in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. And there's so much about my own body that I'm only learning now because I'm in this space that I'm like shocked that I didn't know these things before. And even small things that like women do actually need more sleep than men. And something I've recently learned is that because women's bodies experience more stress, we actually need to be in different conditions than men. So when it comes to something like a cold plunge, like
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, men actually need to be in like colder water, and for women to experience that same amount of stress, they don't actually need to be in water as cold because our bodies already experience that stress.
I read that study somewhere too. I can't remember where I've read it, but it this whole cold plunging situation for women is actually very stressful on the body. And because we have so many hormones to deal with, like hormones are messengers, they're sending messages to your body. And when you stress them too much, you can get a reaction and a message that probably shouldn't have been created in the first place. So we can get a surge of cortisol, which then suppresses or makes insulin resistant. So we fall into this trap in a circular vicious circle. So I love that you said that, that, you know, there's things that women need specifically, and that you're learning about this at such a young age, because it's really not talked about. And not until recently has menopause even been talked about. So, and I'm writing my second book on this hormone journey. So I'm excited to share that with everyone, but there is not a lot of information on it.
And I feel like there's also, everyone's body is very different. So there is an extent that you have to find what works for you. And even just trying to test out small changes. Like for me, for maybe 5 or 6 years, like every morning, well, maybe not every morning, but most mornings I was like waking up, working out right away, having coffee on an empty stomach. And I've now learned that like, this is not really great way for women to operate. It's not good for your hormones. So now I'm like actively waking up, having a slower morning, having my breakfast, not having coffee first thing on an empty stomach. Whereas before I thought I was doing something so good for my body with like the intermittent fasting and all of these different things that you hear. And it's really hard to know and understand what's actually right for your own body. And even just finding ways to like measure and test those things, and even learning at like different times of the month. And depending on where you're at on your cycle, it's like you want to be prioritizing these foods, these types of workouts, actually getting even more sleep during certain times. And this is all such new information to me. And I think it's so important to talk about it so other women can hear it and can try it. And so that men can learn about it as well and understand what women are going through and what their bodies are going through, just like on a regular basis.
I've built my entire clinical philosophy and even wrote a book called Younger Skin Starts in the Gut around one simple truth. If your gut isn't optimal, nothing else works. Genova Diagnostics GI Effects Test is the gold standard in functional stool testing, mapping your microbiome, digestion, inflammation, and nutrient absorption with clinical precision. It's a crappy job, but someone has to do it. And no one does it better than Genova. Visit genovaconnect.com and use my code HEALTHYDOC15 for 15% off your first stool test. It's so true. I mean, we need so much more than men do in terms of like our routine, our sleep. And we've for so long lived in this society where it's been so male dominated. And so, you know, I feel like if men had the issues that we had, there would be like all these, there would be like a center to go for healing for them, like we almost need somewhere, and I'm not bashing men because men, like they are wonderful for the most part, and we need them for many things. But I feel like we have lived in the society for so long, and feeling shame around
Exactly.
having an illness and not being able to voice that concern around that illness, I think is just so important. And I feel like what you two have created is more than just a product. You've created like, almost a mission, and almost like something to empower women by. And I know recently I saw that you had Sophie Trudeau, the former prime minister's wife, talk about your products. How did that happen? Because she's like amazing, by the way. She's just an incredible human, and she loves your product.
Yeah, that was a really exciting moment for us. So just a few weeks ago, I ended up going to Toronto for an event. The company had reached out to me. They were putting together a women's empowerment event, and they were going to have different female vendors there. So I was like, this is a great opportunity. Unfortunately, Neelam couldn't make it to the event. So I went down there. We had our booth set up, and Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, she was the headline speaker. And I had met someone who ended up being kind of part of her crew. The day before, when I was setting up, I was telling her about our brand and about how our products are really incredible for women going through menopause, perimenopause, and everything before, after, in between. And during her keynote, Sophie had spoken about how she was having issues sleeping through perimenopause. And as she was coming off the stage, she came up to my booth and she's like, I hear you have pajamas for menopause. I was like, oh my goodness. And I got a little excited, very flustered. And I was telling her about her products, showing her, I luckily had a glass of water with me, how the moisture resistance of the products worked. And she was really excited about the product. So I ended up gifting her a set. And shortly after, a couple weeks later, her team reached out that she was doing this celebration for her 50th birthday, where she wanted to highlight 5 Canadian female-owned brands that she was really loving and that she just loved the pajamas. And we ended up collaborating with her over the last few weeks. And it's been so incredible because she's such, like you mentioned, she's an incredible human. She's promoting really important messages for women. And to be able to know that she loves our pajamas and that they're really doing what we intend for them to do for her is just so incredible to hear.
I mean, that was such mind-blowing that and she really did promote it and said it's one of her favorite pajamas and one of her favorite, items, her go-to items anyway. And now mine as well. And clearly Dante's.
We'll need to make a dog set soon too.
I think so. I think you need to make that would be great. That would probably keep the dog out. I mean, he doesn't really smell. We kind of know he's not a dog. He's my fur baby. I have given birth to him. I have an ultrasound somewhere. I just can't find it. So what would you tell women your age? You were in your 20s and 30s?
Officially in my 30s today, so.
Happy birthday. Oh my
you.
gosh. Okay, so you're both in your 30s.
Yes.
And what would you tell women in their 30s about, you have women that are entrepreneurs just like the two of you. You built this incredible business. I know you've worked extremely hard at this, building this, sourcing the materials. It's a lot. I know I myself have had to source ingredients and materials, and it's a lot. What would you tell other entrepreneurs that are doing the same thing that you're doing?
I think I would say my experience early on is a really great example to turn to, that you're never going to do your best work if you're sacrificing rest, if you're not giving yourself that time to recharge and recover. So even if you're building your own business, there's so many things to do. There's always something to do. And you could be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's your baby. So you want to give it your all. You want to give it everything, but you really have to find that balance to make sure you're resting, recovering, recharging, and finding other ways to fill your cup as well, not just your business. And so I know there's so many people out there who say you have to grind and hustle and that's the only way to make it, but we really don't believe in that. We really believe that balance is key. And like I said, you're never going to be healthy and feeling your best self, and you're never going to do your best work if you're not rested.
Right. Because when we hear the word balance, it's one of the most difficult things I struggle with. I actually come to dislike that word because it's so hard to find that balance. And the way I kind of think of it is that if I am not feeling optimal, I'm not going to be able to give my energy to my patients. And it's hard to like conceptualize it, you know, because you're like, we're all looking for balance.
Yeah.
And there are going to be some months that you're going to be more busy and have less sleep. But it's about sacrificing the things. Is it sacrificing the things? Is it the FOMO that we get? You know, like what is it that we need to do? And I feel like as I'm now in my 50s, the one thing is just a no, you know, I can't live without is sleep. I need to have, you know, at least 8 hours of sleep. And I have to be in an environment that gives me that 8 hours. And I think it's something that we can all agree with. And all the studies have pointed in that direction, that sleep, I think, is the most important. So I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you said it best, right? There's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be times where maybe you won't get the full 8 hours of sleep, but what are other ways that you can incorporate rest into your daily life? Maybe it's taking time for some deep breaths or taking some time for stretches or just kind of easy ways to make sure you're giving yourself a little bit of time to recharge throughout the day to make sure you're able to give your work, your relationships, and everything in your life your all. And you're never going to do that if you're just nonstop on the go 24 hours a day. So our message is really about not necessarily that you need to have a perfect balance of everything, but just make sure you're taking that time to rest and recharge.
That's a beautiful message. True wellness lives in the smallest details, the air you breathe, the water you wash with, and the surfaces you touch. That's why Koala Eco, with their beautiful botanical ranges for home, laundry, body, and even pets, is the only brand I trust. Elegant living without compromise. Visit koalaeco.com, that's KOALAECO.com, and use my code HealthyDoc15 for 15% off your first order.
I think wellness and health and wellness in itself can feel really overwhelming. We're hearing so many things that you need to do a 10-step morning and evening routine, but when wellness makes you stressed out, then it's not wellness. And for us, we really try to promote the idea that it's really about building a good foundation. Like we mentioned, we really want to start with a foundation of sleep, and that's really well connected to nutrition, to exercise. And when all of those are working together, then you really are going to be at your best. And then everything else on that is an add-on. And you don't always need to be doing such an extreme version. And even when it comes to routine, it's so great to have a routine, but that routine needs to be adaptable. And maybe some days you have a perfect 1 hour evening and morning routine where you're doing everything. But maybe a lot of the nights you're just taking a few deep breaths before you go to sleep. And that's part of having a routine as well. And I think it's just so important to remember, like, you have to do wellness in a way that works for you and not try to do everything all at once. Really find the balance with all the wellness habits that you're doing as well.
And I think it like depends where you are in your cycle too. You know, you might not want to be running on the treadmill when you're menstruating because you're losing all your chi, right? You're losing all your energy. When you're losing blood and you're losing fluids, you're losing that energy and you need to preserve. And so I think this is for women, it's so important to like really look at, you know, what their body's telling them. They shouldn't feel guilty. Oh, I didn't go to the gym. You know, listen, I am lazy, pure lazy when it comes to exercise. My trainer has to really push me in a way like he's really good at doing. He's really manipulative in a good way. You kind of have to be with me because I'm highly allergic to exercise. I like actually, he's my antihistamine, to be fair. He's like a great trainer. But it is a tough one, you know, like there are some points where you need to push, but I feel like if your body's really telling you no, you have to listen. Because your body doesn't lie. It really tells you what it needs. And if you just listen to it, it will give you that message.
Yeah, and I think it's just so important to be forgiving with yourself as well. And
Totally.
If you don't get a perfect night's sleep, that's okay. Like, try to make some adjustments if you can. Try to have a better sleep the next night, and don't get too stressed out about it, because obviously then that adds to, you know, your inability
like,
to
I didn't
sleep.
Well. I know. I get so mad when I wake up sometimes and the aura ring has said, you did not sleep well, or, you know, it's just telling me off, you know, if I'm not active enough. And I'm like, that's so hard on myself. I'm like, I have to go to sleep. And here I am lying in bed trying to count sheep or meditate or, you know, and use some tools. But generally speaking, I feel like sleep for me is easy for me because I've just created a routine for that. And that actually now that I can, you know, not rip off all my clothes in the middle of the night and scare my neighbors or whatever, you know, like now I can just feel more temperature regulated. I think that's so key, is the temperature regulation too. So Okay, so before we finish off here, I want to ask you what your out of the 5 love languages, which are your? Let's start with you, Serena. What's your top love language?
My top love language is, I would say it's a tie between quality time and acts of service, but maybe quality time is a little bit higher.
Okay, quality time and acts of service. Okay, love that. And yours?
I always love to bug my husband and say it's all 5 of them to make it
She's
as hard as
she's like,
possible for
I'm
him.
taking it all. I agree.
I need everything.
I need everything too. I'm right there. But having said that, so acts of gifts and service, I want to gift you something that's really important, and it's a poop test.
Oh, amazing.
Okay.
I've never been gifted a poop test before.
Right? I mean, of course, on my podcast, I should have called it a poop test. I'm going to give you this test that's going to look at your gut microbiome and see who's living in there.
Okay.
And then after, we're going to do a consult and review what we came up with, because I do really feel the root of all illness starts in the gut. And I always in the gut. And I like to give all my guests a poop test that attended my show. So
Amazing.
Thank you
this
so
is
much.
just for you. And I've also included some goodies. This is from Dante and I.
Aw,
Well,
thank you.
So when you're mad at me while it's doing the poop test, get mad at him. It's his fault too. He's gifting it to you. So I just want to, and then I want to learn about sort of, especially that would be good for you to see, like, it's the gut that really carries all, everything. Every disease starts in the gut, and all the healing starts in the gut. So I'm excited to give that to you.
Well, thank you so much.
We're excited to try it out.
Well, this has been fascinating, ladies. I'm so proud of you. 2 amazing entrepreneurs, sisters, Canadian, my fellow Canadian sisters, created this incredible line, RANI Lounge. I'm so excited for everyone to hear about it. And I'm so excited to have had you on the podcast today.
Thank you.
So much for having us.
It was so great to be here.
Oh, it's been so fun. I've learned so much. Where can people find you?
So our products are available on our website, ranilounge.com, and we currently ship across Canada and the US.
Oh, perfect. And you're on Instagram as well.
We're on Instagram, TikTok at RANI Lounge.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much again for being with us today. And thank you for my pajamas.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.